the world. Welcome to this Transitioning Humanitarians live session with you, with Vicky and myself. Hi, Vicky.
Hi, Asel. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. We are really happy that you are with us. You are watching us either live or afterwards. And today's subject, we're going to talk about plan and especially how to course correct if you noticed or when you noticed or how you noticed that you need to course correct. So,
Yes,
yes.
exactly. So we're excited to talk about for a number of reasons, and I was thinking that some of the major reasons why we need to be talking about it is because our brains wants and likes to generalize things, to say things are not working, I should just give up or I should just go back or whatever the things that we
Mhm.
tend to say. So that's why we need to know where we're going and how we're going and whether we're really going in the direction that we want to, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is, I was thinking that our brains are also good at proving our beliefs to be true.
Yeah.
If we
Yeah.
think that it's difficult or it's not going the way it should, then our brains want to just find all the evidence to prove that to be true. So that's why we need to be careful to see whether it's really not working like objectively or it's just our brains wanting to find the evidence for how that is, right? And also, of course, having the tool to understand that you have the ability to course correct, to change things, to get to the place, and always like telling your brain that you can do that instead of feeling like it doesn't depend on me and I have no control over and I just don't know what to do and being like in this powerless position. So that's why we thought that we will help you put together a bit of a plan and think about how to think about course correcting the transitioning journey that you want to go through. So, Vicky, let's start with the planning part first, and
Yeah.
then we go into the course correcting. So,
Yeah.
why don't you tell us all about
Yeah.
the planning part?
Yeah, the reason why we are mentioning planning is that I hear this question very often, because I hear the need very often from colleagues or people I work with. But I need a plan. I need a plan. I want a plan. So this is something that a lot of people feel better once they have a plan, and I think it's very reasonable. Having a simple plan, something that sets them out. It's written, of course, ideally something written where you have the vision where you want to go and where you have some sort of a timeline. I think it's something very, very important. Um, Sometimes I would like to say that when with the plan, sometimes people feel when they have overall a larger vision that they set out for themselves or the objective where they want to get to, sometimes this can be overwhelming. And that's why many people prefer to have like a smaller chunk. So whatever works is good, as long as this is whatever is out there for you, whatever you choose, whatever works for you is okay. But what I want to say also very importantly, there is one important part that we tend to forget or people tend to forget is adjusting the habits, because we may put, I want to do this, I want to, maybe I want to have, let's put an example, I want to have explored all the options within 6 months, right? I will want to go and then explore whether I want to work in sustainability, whether I want to be a coach, whether I want to, whatever that is. But we forget to adjust the habits. And I think this is one of the very important things that we really need to make space for, if we want to really get what we want within that time period, within the 6 months. I'm sure you have something to say about it, in particular about how we measure these things and how we course correct.
Yeah. So I was also thinking that in terms of the planning, I'm trusting that everyone knows how to do that, especially I think we're so prone to doing that and workplace, right? So if you're someone who's into planning, amazing, go and do it. I really encourage it. I'm someone who likes planning, so that's why I totally get it. But I also know people who are not really like into planning because they're allergic
Mm-hmm.
to it or whatever they
Yeah.
think is not right, right, or they feel pressure in planning. So that's why whatever works for you. I think what's important to know is that in order to answer your brain when it says it's not working, you really need to have a framework, so to say. Otherwise, it's
Yeah,
difficult to know if we're going in the direction that we want to, right? So obviously, we at least need to have a direction, destination of what we're going and also how we are getting there. So this is, I think, the elements that I would always think important for the planning purposes. Now, how systematic or detailed or not detailed is totally up to you. So in that frame, what's important that I think that we need to really measure things is um, I was thinking like how we usually measure things is we usually measure things by activity, right? We say things like, oh, I
hmm
have done like, I don't know, 20 applications in this direction, or I have done the update of CV in this direction, or something like this. And we tend to focus so much on the action line. And of course, that's very important that we need to do that, but I would really encourage people to be thinking not only in terms of action line, but even before that, in terms of how we're feeling and how we're thinking about this whole process. Because what I often see is that when we are in the transitioning period, we have a lot of this chaotic sounding ideas of, okay, I want to go this way and this way, and then try here and try there. And then our brains tend not to like that chaos oftentimes
yeah,
because in the time when we're transitioning, we really need some kind of a stability, right? Some kind of a structure, some kind of like a guidance, so to say, so that we feel like we are in charge of what we're doing and how we're doing it. And in those moments, it's so easy to get into the action line of, okay, I have to do X, Y, Z, and I have to get it done. Otherwise, I feel this uncomfortable discomfort, and I don't want to be in that place. So that's why we are so good at that part. But in order to make that activity successful, we really need to think about, is this really the job I'm wanting to go for, right? Is this really the job that I want to again try, or I'm just doing it so that I don't feel uncomfortable, or so I don't feel discomfort, or I don't feel my fear. So that's why I just need to like tick the box and then get things done. Because if we are in that mindset, again, it will be difficult to get to the transitioning that we really want or to the life that we're wanting. Because remember, the reason why we are changing things is because we didn't like the things before. So now, if we put ourselves in
yeah.
the same position, it will be again as if we're repeating the history, right? So that's why I would love to propose to measure how are you thinking or how are you feeling in that moment. And are you really feeling like confident that you're going to the place that you're going? Are you really feeling like grounded and calm in the process of uh, going exactly to the places that you want to, or sending applications to the places you want to, or getting the interview you want to? Or you just notice this frantic energy of, oh, I have to get things done. Because whenever we are in that frantic energy or rushed energy, or like if you're not familiar with the term energy or you don't like it, replace it with feeling, right? Whenever you are in that feeling, that means that you're trying to feel safe, you're trying to feel stable. And that's a very human thing to do. So instead of working on sending that application, maybe the best thing you can do is take care of yourself in that moment and attend to what to make to make yourself feel safe. So that's why I would love to suggest that you measure in those terms of like checking with yourself how you're feeling, and let your feelings guide you towards what actions to take, when to take them, and when not to take them. I don't know. What do you think, Vika? Does that sound?
Absolutely. I actually had this one mentioned as well. How you're feeling. For me, the course correct has several elements. For me, it's always Number one is always checking against your values, checking against your three core values that you have and how they are really present in your life as you are transitioning. Because if they
Mm.
are not fully present, or if they are really, really practically not present, there is something that needs to be corrected, and you need to find out what it is. So for me, that's really first point, the values. But the second, as you're mentioning, absolutely, to check how you're check how you're feeling. Now here I would also like to say that this is a sort of a, I would say, difficult situation, not always, but sometimes can be, because we by default have saboteurs, or these sort of voices that will come and start nagging us, because we are doing something that we are not used to, and we have this we have we are going really out of this comfortable situation. So by default there will be some feelings, but if you take the course correct, if you measure it against the values, and also really all the other things, including the feeling, I think you will definitely have an answer as to whether you are going the right direction. And it's just a normal thing that you're going through a sort of a rougher or more difficult times, or if there is something that really you went off the direction you initially set out for yourself. So those two things I would like to mention, that are very good, like sort of indicators, I would say. And the third
Yeah.
thing I wanted to mention here is also accountability to oneself. I do feel it's not for everyone. I see that for some people this comes naturally. They don't need to set out accountability for oneself. For oneself. For
Mm.
others, they really insist that I want to really make something specific in terms of accountability to oneself. So this is how I can also course correct. Like I will check with myself in some way, that I'm on the right way or right path.
Yeah,
So those
exactly.
are my contributions. Yeah.
Amazing. And I was thinking also that, so one of the ways that if it's helpful for you to also set yourself like um, certain indicators, right? Certain ways to know that if
Yeah.
you're going in the right direction. So for instance, the way that I used to do it for myself is I would say that by this time I will have this type of result, or I will have this type of
Mhm.
outcome, right? Or whatever that outcome you're thinking of, be it like you're feeling more calm and confident in applying for things, be it financial aspect, be it something else, right? So
Mhm.
you can always set for yourself certain ways to know that you're going in that direction. One of the things that I used to think of myself like, by this time, I really want to put myself certain boundaries of that I will not be feeling sorry for myself or bitching about things or like
Yeah.
treating myself badly in the process of not doing
Mhm.
things or like not doing things in the time that I said I would, but then I'm not doing it, right, for whatever
Mhm.
reason, and then feeling sorry or feeling bad about it. So I really put myself certain things of this is not what I won't be doing anymore, and then measuring like, am I really doing it or not? If I'm not doing it, then
Mhm.
that means for me that's going in the right direction. Or another way could be that by this time I will have gone through a number of interviews in the area that I really love, right? So that could be another way of measuring it. And if that's
Mhm.
not happening, then getting curious as to why it's not happening, right? So what are the things that you may not have put in your CV or resume, but
Yeah.
also how did you really approach that process? Did you really like believe that you could do this? Did you really think you had the profile for it? If not, why not?
Yeah.
And then getting really curious about that, and then telling yourself, excuse me, the next time, how do you want to approach this process?
Yeah.
Next
Yeah.
time, what are you going to do things differently so that you have a more increased chance of getting it? So, for instance, you could be telling yourself that maybe you need to network in certain area, or you need to network with certain people, or maybe you need to know more about the policy of that
Mm-hmm.
organization that you didn't know before, right? So whatever the thing
Yeah.
is, so that's why the idea really is getting specific, as specific as possible as to why do you think things are not working and how do you want to change so that you can make it work, rather than keep believing that, like generalizing or saying like, oh,
Yeah.
I knew it wouldn't work, so why
Exactly.
bother,
Yeah.
kind of energy. And then if we're in that space, then we will feel like, we'll feel sorry for ourselves, we'll feel
Mm-hmm.
like things are not going, we feel stuck, or we feel like we should just go back to what we know, or whatever the things. And
Yes.
then our brains will try to get us back to what we know best
Exactly.
instead of
Yeah.
moving to what we really want to.
Yeah, this is a super important point that you are mentioning because it happens very often. Because we, I think, see it very often that people say, oh, I've tried and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And okay, so what did you learn from this trying? And,
Yeah.
unfortunately, it also happens that people say, I've tried, and the person tried once or twice. So yes, transitioning is not a small thing, especially transitioning from aid sector. As we talked, it's not only a job, it's just identity so much more. So it by default, it does mean that we will have to try quite a few times before we get it right.
Yeah.
They might be those super lucky ones that just first thing and get it straight. It wasn't my case, for example. I mean,
Yeah.
if I can mention my example, that can serve colleagues, that I also thought, before becoming a coach, I was contemplating becoming somebody who works on sustainability, on
Mm.
really working sustainability projects and sort of green energy, etc. And I remember my coach many years back telling me, but Victoria, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to plant trees. And and here I want to say something important. I still want to plant trees, but I
Mm.
didn't become sustainability person. It's still a
Mm.
very important part of my life, and I really
Yeah.
deeply believe in it. But I decided, and I gave myself half a year to explore that part of the work stream, or that
Yeah.
area, where I said it's great, but I don't want to do this professionally. So I also want to here I want to really make people aware that if you have a plan, and it's great you have one, and you have the indicators that allow you to course correct. It would be a mistake to see things only black and white, to say, okay, I tried and I didn't manage, and that's it, and I failed. So
Yeah.
I think here I would like to say it's really important to give it a few tries, to give yourself the time to go towards your aim. And I think it's something
Yeah.
we mentioned quite a few times as well.
Exactly. And I was also thinking, Vicky, that one of the things that I think we don't often ask ourselves is, how do we know that it's not working? Right?
Yeah.
Or how do we know that it is working? Because
Hmm.
our conclusions seem to be so fast. At least this is how I
Yeah.
experience my brain, and I see from my clients as well. And then so I was coaching one of my clients around this, that his in his mind it was, if I'm not getting this job,
Hmm.
then it's not working, even though
Yes.
that was not the plan.
Yeah.
But because the plan was something else, but our brains want to have this shiny object
Yeah.
syndrome, meaning that
Yeah.
we want to go to something else. We want to feel better. We want to feel like the change, and we want to have this like very major change, so we feel good about it, right? So,
Yeah.
and we feel like if we're not having that, then it's not really working. But notice also that that might be your pattern to be seeking like something else, to
Hmm.
something major, so that you don't have to feel certain feelings,
Yeah.
or you don't
Yeah.
have to deal with certain things before going for it. So the analogy that I was thinking about is that, imagine that you met someone, even though you wanted to clear up a lot of the things from your past relationship, right? But then you met someone and you're like rushing and wanting to be with that person because
Hmm.
it sounds exciting, it sounds amazing, but then you also promise yourself that you will not be doing certain things in the new relationship anymore. And therefore, you decided to take time. So that's why, if that is really the plan, then take time and clear out things. Of course, you can continue that relationship or nurture that relationship, but still do the things that you said you would do before, so that you don't make the same mistake, or you don't make the same
Yeah.
you don't come to the same issues that you had before, basically, right? So
Yeah.
that's why the importance of measuring, or importance of being aware of how things are going, and whether this is going the way that you said it would go or not, is really important for you to then be on to yourself and say, okay, I said this is how I would transition, and this is how I would do, even though in the moment, so let's say your previous employer got back to you with a new
Yes.
shiny contract,
Yes.
and you're like, oh my God, finally, like we jump off and go
Yeah.
and doing that, even though maybe we said that's not what we're going to do anymore, right? So that's why it's so key to understand that our brains love that type of newness and different excitement, but maybe that's not the time for us in that moment. And maybe in that moment, the time is to look at some other topics. So that's why we want you to be thinking about course correction.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned a very good example that I think happens very often when you decided you're ready. Okay, I am transitioning, and this is where I'm heading, and this is my plan, or this is where I'm going, and suddenly, the moment when you don't expect it, the offer comes that you've been
Yeah.
dreaming about, and I would like to say there is no right or wrong. Like, yes, you may, as long as you do it consciously, you may want to explore and learn something new, whilst knowing that it will take you away from what you have set out for yourself.
Yeah.
And maybe after having taken the assignment, you will even have a better, even more motivation to transition to something else. It usually is the case. Just to mention, my research that I have done about a year ago shows that great majority of the people that I interviewed say they wish to have done it earlier. So
Mm.
again, it is subjective. It is not a research of thousands of people. But still, I think for most of the people, we tend to linger on. I think we can safely assume that we tend to linger on a little longer than
Yeah.
um, than we need.
Exactly. And also,
So
I was thinking that one of the challenges obviously is that if our mindset is all about how we need to get another job, or how we need to get another thing going, otherwise we will be jobless, or we will have
mhm,
difficulty financially, right? So if we keep thinking in that realm, and then our previous employer, let's say, gives us another job opportunity, then our brain wants to just jump on it and then
yeah,
get the next thing, so that we can feel stable again, right? So that we
yeah,
can feel safe again, even though maybe that's not really what we wanted in our transitioning journey, right?
mm,
Maybe in our
yeah,
transitioning journey, we wanted to prioritize something else. So that's why, notice how your mind will be so much like juggling a bit between the fear and the desire, right? So going for
yeah,
what you want, and then the fear
mm,
interfering with it, and then something new comes up, and then your brain wanting to just go to that. And all of that will be happening, and that's like, okay, normal, I would say, because I've seen so many of us experience it. But in that moment, having that mindset of, but I still want to go to what I want to, right? I
yeah,
still, despite the fear, despite the shiny objects, despite whatever
mhm,
thing that's going on, I still want to do what I want to do, and staying firm on that course, and then dealing with all the drama in between, I think, and being aware of how you can do that, or being aware of you can have space for all of this, but at the same time keep going towards your goal,
yeah,
and you are capable of doing that. I think that's really what we want to show here, right? So that you understand that even though our brains want to have different options like showing up for us, but still us having that goal in mind and saying, okay, I still want to go there. I still want to get there. I will have this thing going on,
Yeah.
and that's okay. But it doesn't mean that I can't go to my goal. So that's why I just need to keep course correcting as I go to say, okay, this didn't work. This didn't work. This is not what I really want to. So let me go to what I want. And maybe
Yeah.
here, one experience that I had recently helps is to as I went to Ukraine last year, right?
Mhm.
While doing my coaching work, I received a lot of offers from former colleagues to work again, right?
Mhm.
And that was
Yeah.
amazing, exciting, amazing to hear that. My brain really loved the idea of, oh, I could do this, or oh, I could do that, or
Yeah.
like, oh, let me go and do this, right? So there were like so many enticing
Yes.
offers
Mhm.
available to me, and of
Mhm.
course my brain just wanted to say, well, why why just not go and do the things that you know already, you've done it for so
Mhm.
long. And all the arguments were very convincing,
Mhm.
and I could just sit and understand and agree with myself and say, yes, I totally get it, I could just do that.
Yeah.
But then I also kept reminding myself that yes, amazing enticing offers, I'm grateful, but I still
Mhm.
want to go to what I want, right?
Yeah.
So that's why
Yeah.
having like space for both and then still having the goal in mind, even though in that moment it's very enticing. So that's why I
Yeah.
think course correcting, like being aware of what's happening and how you can have all this ideas but still going for what you want is available to us. And we would love for you to think that you are capable of doing all of that as well.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. Thank you for mentioning it. One of the things, Asel, that I wanted to add is, when we are creating a plan, it's usually sets of actions with a timeline. But one thing we forget to do is to feel or to realize who will I become at the end of it. And
Yeah.
I think this is also one of the indicators that can be used as in terms of a course correction, if needed. It's to feel and it's to visualize who will I be at the end of the process, at the end of it, and who will I be if I, for example, as you mentioned, accept this offer of a former employer or another employer, etc. Again, no judgment there. Just be aware that it is, they're two different personalities. It's two different identities, and I think it's important to be aware of this.
Yes, absolutely. And also, I think I love that you mentioned the personalities. I think in the course correction or in the execution of the planning, we often have like when we have failures, our brains want to then say, well, yes, you have evaluated, yes, you have seen that this is not working and this is not working. And then your brain will be very sneaky to say also that, well, then how do you really know that it's all going to work out, right? It will
Yeah.
be like presenting very
Yeah.
convincing arguments as to, are you really sure that all of this will be working out? And
Hmm.
in that moment, it's so key to rely on us being the person who makes things work the way we want to, right? Because in those moments, I think it's so easy to say, oh, yes, you're right, I tried and this didn't work and that didn't work, so that's why maybe I'm just um, banging my head against the wall. In that moment, I like to like tell my brain that no, I'm the person who's going to make it work, right? It's not like
Yeah.
someone else is coming over
Yes.
and creating this outcome that I want. I'm the one who will be making it work. So that's why having that, you who is the person who can make that work in mind, helps immensely to get backtrack to what you're wanting and getting to what you're wanting. So
Hmm.
that's why
Yeah.
amazing. Any last words before we wrap up?
There is one. metaphor, or I'm not sure if it's a metaphor or proverb that I wrote down for myself as I was preparing, and I see a lot of people struggling with it, and this is I can't have my cake and eat it too. The attitude of I can't have it all. I can't. I something. I can't afford to have it all. And I think this is also
Mm.
one of the self-sabotaging thoughts that will be present for many. And I just want to make sure that people are aware as they're walking through this journey that this is a self-sabotaging thought that comes with plans and comes with course correction or at any stage. So really important to be aware that
Yes,
yes, you can have.
exactly. And
Yeah,
I was just thinking that whenever my brain offers that, I always think about, is it really is it really useful to be thinking in those terms, right? Like, for
yeah,
instance, the way that I think about it, is it really useful to be pressing the brake and expecting things to go and making things
yes,
difficult for myself, right? So instead, if
mm-hmm,
I don't like try to stand in my own way, I just decided that this is what I want to do and I just go and do it. And
mm-hmm,
having this all the thoughts of, oh, I can't have it all. This will probably not work. All of these thoughts
yeah,
are optional, even though they will keep coming, and that's, I guess, part
yeah,
of it. But even if they keep coming, I always have this then awareness to say, no, this is not really useful. It's not really useful to
mm-hmm,
entertain and to be sitting with it, but
mm-hmm,
instead just focusing on what I want to focus on and then keep going in that direction, even though my brain wants me to like hang out with the fear, hang out with all
yeah,
of these sabotaging thoughts, right?
mm-hmm,
Which I know is
yeah,
not useful. But of course, that will come also with time, that you will start realizing that certain thoughts are not really useful. You will start realizing that as well as you become more and more aware of why you didn't get the goal that you wanted or why you didn't get to that
mm-hmm,
place that you wanted. Once you start being aware, then you know what is it that's good for you and what it is that's not. It's a bit
mm-hmm,
like the way that I think of it is like food, that at some point we realize,
mm-hmm.
okay, this food is not good for me, right? Even though I like it, but
Yes,
I know that it's not good for me eventually. So that's why I feel like it's the
mm-hmm,
same with our thoughts, is like food, right? We get to
yeah,
like exploring and then seeing and trying it on and like, no, maybe this is not good for us. So that's why
mm-hmm,
we invite you to this journey of planning and also having some form of measurement to see if you're going in the direction you want to. And if it's not, why it's not the case, and then how you can go back to your track that you really want to go on, right? Okay, my dears. Thank you, Vicky, so much. Thank you, everyone, for
thank
watching.
you.
And we will be back with more practical things to talk about next week. Until then, if you wish to be coached by us, let us know. And also, if you want to come to this February monthly meeting, you also let us know,
Mm-hmm,
sending us your email so we can send you the invite,
yeah,
where we will be discussing how to apply all of this, what we're saying, how you are applying it, what's working, what's not working, and how we can
mm-hmm,
help you course correct.
yeah. Thank you and see you next week.
Yes, see you next week. Bye, you all.